Okay, my dudes. Hopefully this stream is set up correctly. I literally just had to sprint from the gym, get here as fast as I could because, oh my God, we have some horrible news here. Cam Akers torn Achilles. Literally, Cam Akers was one of my favorite draft picks this year, and this is devastating. I mean, this is such a bad blow to really anybody who has drafted Cam Akers in Dynasty, redraft, whatever it is, because you took him at the end of the first round. You took him at the beginning of the second round, and now he's completely dead. And what is so bad is a torn Achilles is not like another injury. I mean, this is something that we have talked about extensively with Marlon Mack, in that historically, you have never seen a running back come back from that torn Achilles. It just doesn't happen. I mean, Donta Foreman, one of my favorite running backs coming out of the University of Texas, gets drafted to Houston. His rookie season, he actually starts to perform well. He actually looks like he's going to be their future running back, but he tears his Achilles. Then all of a sudden he's out of football for 2 years. Then he resurfaces on the Tennessee Titans. But literally, I mean, you are 80% of what you once were, especially at the running back position, because we know that is 100% driven by explosion, 100% driven by power, and not having an Achilles is going to devastate any capability that you do have. So of course, here we have to talk about what this does for Cam Akers in Dynasty. I know this isn't a Dynasty channel, but I really want to make sure that we are hitting that home. We need to talk about what this does for Darrell Henderson in redraft. And also, I think this is actually going to change the entire running back landscape. But like I said, guys, I literally just bursted through the door. I have not had a chance to pull up really anything so far. I just had to get this live stream going. We can break this down at the same time. So please, please, please go down there, drop a like on this live stream, help us get out there, because we already uploaded a video today. So I'd imagine YouTube's not going to be kind to us in the algorithm going 2 videos in a day. And okay, let's dive into it. And a bad thing is we also released our draft guide over there on Patreon today, and I was planning on sending those out after we got back from the gym. So literally right about now. And I'm sure that we've had a lot of DMs, people asking for that email, and I was about to send out the entire package with all the draft guides. And now we're going to have to push that back just slightly. I'm going to do my best to try to update the rankings. But a big problem is this does not only change the ranking for Darrell Henderson. This also changes the ranking in what you are doing in rounds 1, 2, and 3 at the running back position, because no longer having that elite player is going to drive up the demand when the supply isn't necessarily there. So I'm going to do my best to try to get that draft guide out today on Patreon. I'm going to do my best to try to get those updated rankings. But I think maybe it would be more beneficial for everybody if I kind of instead let it sit for a couple days, make sure we go through, get some mock drafts in, understand how this is going to affect the entire landscape of drafts, because we had that draft guide. I mean, I was so excited about it. I thought it was optimized exactly how you should be drafting. We actually had people over there on Patreon that were using the draft guide just in mock drafts, using my rankings and showing me what it was coming out with different draft positions. And I love the builds. But now the builds have to change because Cam Akers leaving this landscape is going to change everything. So please let me know, guys, over there on Patreon. Do you want me to kind of rush it out? Do you want me to make sure that we are still getting it out today? I can get it out tonight because updating the Cam Akers chapter will probably just take me 2 hours. Or do you want me to make sure we get some more mock drafts in and then I can release it once we are officially in Tampa and all settled down? Because I would feel more comfortable with that, but I can still get out the draft guide if y'all really, really want it. So please let me know your thoughts on that, and let's dive into this. And the first thing I want to do is I want to pull up my rankings and see where we officially had Cam Akers in redraft leagues. I know that we actually had him as our running back 4 in Dynasty. So of course he has to plummet down those rankings, not only because he's not going to be producing this year, but at the same time, I don't necessarily know what the production is going to look like a long time from now. Okay, so let's go. Let's pull up our 2021 fantasy rankings. Right now, we actually had Cam Akers at 11 overall. So we had him as a first round pick. I love targeting Cam Akers at the back half of the first round. And now, obviously, he's going to plummet. And let me look up where we had Darrell Henderson, because Henderson, I mean, it doesn't take anybody but a monkey to understand he's going to be skyrocketing up. We had Darrell Henderson at 137 overall. So he would have been a target in the 11th, 12th round of fantasy drafts. That's going to skyrocket up because with the Rams offense, you're expecting this team to be one of the most potent offenses in the NFL. And with that being said, I mean, their starting running back is going to be getting a lot of usage in the red zone. And Darrell Henderson has been someone that we've actually been pumping up for quite a while now. And what we have been saying, and this is the perfect example to dive into some fantasy strategy here, is you did not want to be drafting Darrell Henderson on the same teams that you were drafting Cam Akers. While yes, you would still feel more comfortable, but you would already be behind the 8 ball. If you took Akers in the first, he goes down with the torn Achilles, you're most likely losing the league regardless. But if you instead drafted an Ezekiel Elliott in the first round, and at the end of your draft, instead of handcuffing him with Tony Pollard, you went out there and drafted like Darrell Henderson, which we've advised, then all of a sudden you're in a spot where you have the strongest team in the league and it isn't even close. I mean, what I want to do right now is I actually think we may have Darrell Henderson in the $500 draft that we did the other day. Please, please, please have Darrell Henderson. Let me pull up this draft board because it's going to be on my mind the entire day unless we actually look at this. Okay, so we did have Robert Woods. We avoided Cam Akers, and we go down there. Gosh dang it, we did not have Darrell Henderson. That is the worst. But anyway, let's look past that. But I really want to just applaud anybody who took a 3-down running back in the first round that wasn't Cam Akers and they were able to handcuff with Darrell Henderson, because all of a sudden you now have a league-winning team, regardless of if it's Dynasty, regardless of if it is actually redraft, because we know in the case of Darrell Henderson, that was a running back that looked very impressive in the role that he had at the beginning of the year when Cam Akers was dealing with that rib injury. And yes, he didn't necessarily produce as a top end running back 1 in fantasy, but we have to remember a few things. What we've actually seen in this backfield is we've seen Malcolm Brown go over to Miami, and on top of this, we have seen this offense just drastically improve with the addition of Matthew Stafford. So I would argue that Darrell Henderson is going to have a significantly higher points per game average this upcoming season than what you had last year, because Malcolm Brown was getting targets in the end zone. Malcolm Brown was actually getting a ton of usage in the red zone. Now, of course, we have to worry about some other running backs coming in because they're not rolling into the season with just Darrell Henderson as the only notable name at running back. They are going to go out there. They are going to address the position most likely with a bum free agent running back, most likely with a Frank Gore, a Todd Gurley, a Le'Veon Bell. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're still expecting Darrell Henderson, who I believe is 23, who was drafted in that 2019 class in the beginning of the 3rd round, back when everybody was worried about the Todd Gurley arthritis, which ended up actually being a real concern. You're going to be expecting him to be the starting running back here compared to really anybody else they bring in. Maybe they go and they target someone through trade. Oh my God. I didn't want to think about this. Hopefully this doesn't happen. Actually, we have Travis Etienne everywhere, but what would happen if they go out and trade for James Robinson? I mean, that would be ridiculous. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but of course that is actually something that could be in the cards here. So please let me know what y'all are thinking. Let me know what running back you think they're going to bring in, because I can promise you Darrell Henderson is going to be the starting running back, but they're definitely going to have to bring in depth, and that depth with who they bring in is actually going to impact him largely. Okay, so now let's pull up right now our rankings, and let me just go through and look at where Cam Akers was actually going to be going and how I think this changes things. So we had Cam Akers as running back 11, and we were having him right behind Austin Eckler, Stephon Diggs, and Tyreek Hill. We were having him right before Travis Kelce. So once you take Akers out of the mix and we go over to our running back rankings, all of a sudden, I think those players with Ezekiel Elliott and with Austin Eckler and Jonathan Taylor, I think they actually all get bumped up, where currently we actually have Austin Eckler behind both Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs. And I think we're actually going to have to bump Austin Eckler up slightly, because if you're in the middle of the first round now, if you take Cam Akers out of the back half of the first round, what you're going to find is you're going to find that the running back options available to you in the second are a whole lot worse, because everybody's going to slide up. The demand is going to be there. So I think now we are going to have to adjust Austin Eckler, and I think just Eckler. I don't think we can move Gibson over him, but we are going to be moving Austin Eckler most likely up to our 8th player overall. And then I think we also have to consider moving Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that Najee Harris tier up as well, because currently we actually have them behind Davante Adams and we have them behind DeAndre Hopkins. But like I said, I mean, everything is getting thrown off here. So don't be surprised if you see those rankings, which I've already posted over there on Patreon, but I did it as a Google sheet. That way I can make these updates, because I really didn't want to just send everybody out a list of rankings and go, hey, this is what y'all got for the year. No, I want to make sure that we can continue to update them as we get to the season. So yeah, let me pull up something real quick. And let me know what y'all are thinking in the chat right now. And I see that we are about to pass 100 likes on the live stream. Thank you so much for everybody going down there and dropping that like. And what I want to do is I want to pull up what we actually had in terms of the split with Darrell Henderson last year. I want to look at when Darrell Henderson was getting touches, what exactly was his fantasy production, because a big thing with Henderson that you don't like to see is he wasn't getting utilized in the passing game that often, but we understand that Malcolm Brown was getting a lot of those targets instead. So if we pull this up right now, and I want to look at the overlap between games that you actually had Darrell Henderson play and you had Cam Akers miss. So let's pull up the game logs right here just so we can get this in a line. Let's filter out for running backs in this offense. Okay, so if we pull this up right now, essentially we can see the split where Cam Akers was not playing, and that was going to be from week 2 when he suffered the rib injury all the way up until the bye, because y'all remember that Cam Akers last year was a running back that I was all over. I was screaming to sell Darrell Henderson when we were halfway through the year, and I was screaming to buy Cam Akers because it was clear that Akers was the better talent coming out of Florida State, and at the same time, everybody just didn't really understand that Cam Akers was dealing with that rib injury, and he was just a healthy player that was not going to get in the game. And I know he was healthy on the injury report, but clearly that wasn't the case because he was active multiple games where he didn't see a single snap. So if we go through and we look at weeks 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for Darrell Henderson when Cam Akers really wasn't playing, let's filter weeks 2 through 7. So this is a decent sample that we can find, and let's see what the points per game looked like for Darrell Henderson. Okay, so in that stretch, Darrell Henderson was averaging a little over 14 fantasy points per game. And a big thing that I also want to look at is the touches that Malcolm Brown was getting in this offense at the same time. Since Malcolm Brown's on a different team, it's going to take me just a second to go through and pull up Malcolm Brown's stats instead. But I really want to see the overlap between the two players and see if we would give some of those targets over to Darrell Henderson, what would actually end up happening in terms of their weekly output. Okay, so let's filter this out. Let's go search for Malcolm Brown. Okay, so Malcolm Brown during this stretch averaged about 6.5 fantasy points per game. You combine the two, which of course you can't necessarily just do intuitively because we know that they're probably going to bring in another running back. Darrell Henderson isn't going to be getting every single touch there. But in that small sample, those two running backs were averaging over 20 points a game. Now, like I said, you can't assume that Darrell Henderson's going to do that automatically, but we can assume that that's most likely, just say 80-90% of that is going to go to Henderson if they have to bring in a running back that's a complete jag, if they're bringing in Le'Veon Bell, who at this point is completely washed. So yeah, I mean, I think this is significant. And if we go down as well and we look at what we are going to be doing in the mid rounds at running back, I just think I'm going to be forced to move all these guys up. And real quick, let's get an initial reaction. And this is going to be very bad at the end of the day. I mean, if I actually get 24 hours to think about this, I could look back and go, Mason, what were you thinking there? You were way overreacting. But let's pull up my running back rankings and let me see where I need to be moving Darrell Henderson to, because right now we have him in the middle of the 40s. And obviously he's going ahead of the handcuffed premium tiers like James Conner, Tony Pollard, Ronald Jones, Zach Moss, Kenyon Drake, Leonard Fournette, AJ Dillon. He's going over all those. Now, the point that we have to start considering him is the guys that were already viewed as having a starting role. I mean, players like this are going to be Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis, Kareem Hunt, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, and we have to try to figure out where we're sliding in Henderson. Now, I think that we can easily say that he goes over Michael Carter, Trey Sermon, James Robinson, Chase Edmonds, Mike Davis. Now, when we get to Myles Gaskin, this is going to be a different scenario. Once we get to Myles Gaskin and once we get to Kareem Hunt, I think we actually have to start having a debate here where Myles Gaskin initially, I want to say Darrell Henderson goes over him, but we know in a PPR format, I believe that Myles Gaskin's actually going to be able to command more targets out of the backfield, which is going to make an impact. And in a non-PPR league and a half PPR league, you take Henderson and you don't even think about it. But let's have a debate in the chat right now for everybody out in the live stream. Let me know what y'all are thinking between the tier of Myles Gaskin, Kareem Hunt, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, and Darrell Henderson. Would I be too aggressive in the ranking to move Darrell Henderson over any of those running backs? Because I think that's most likely where he's going to end up going. So it looks like people in the chat are saying that they're going to take him likely in the early 4th. James says he thinks he's going in the 2nd round. I can tell you right now, Darrell Henderson's not making his way up to the 2nd round. That's where you're seeing Najee Harris. That's where you're seeing Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's not touching that round. So yeah, I think that what we're actually going to end up seeing is I think he's going to probably go to the 4th round. I think that's actually a very fair call. Even though people are saying they would take him in the 3rd, I am just really hesitant, guys. I think they are going to bring in someone else. So yeah, everybody is saying take Darrell Henderson over the Travis Etienne, over the Javonte Williams. What do y'all think about the tier of Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, Chris Carson, David Montgomery? Because I have a very hard time putting Darrell Henderson ahead of any of those running backs. So I think I would actually probably slide him in. Most likely, I would slide him in right before Travis Etienne. And like I said, give me 24 hours to think about this. This is why I really want to delay getting out that draft guide over there on Patreon. I'm really sorry, guys. I was looking forward to getting it out today. I was literally telling my girlfriend last night, I was like, I've been working hours and hours and hours on this every single night over the past few months. I can't wait to just publish this. I can't wait to get it out to everybody. But I think we're going to have to wait a few more days because I want to run some mock drafts. I want to see how this changes the landscape. So please, guys, let me know. Okay, so yeah, it looks like people are saying Carson over Henderson. But let me know what y'all think over there on Patreon in terms of when we're going to get out that draft guide, because I'm going to be fidgeting with the rankings all day today. I'm sure if you pull up that Google sheet, you'll see me moving players up and down. But I think the overall rankings, you're going to have running backs going earlier. You're going to have running backs just sliding up entirely until you get to the handcuff tier, because now people are going to be hungry. Wide receivers take a hit, tight ends take a hit, quarterbacks take a hit, just because, I mean, the roster construction is going to have to drastically change. But maybe I'm overreacting here. Maybe I'm just thinking that dynasty owners and redraft players are going to kind of shake things up. Now, a big thing that I want to do now, and I know a lot of people in here don't play in a dynasty or a keeper format, but I want to discuss what we're actually going to be doing with Cam Akers in our dynasty rankings, because there was nobody higher on Cam Akers than we were in dynasty. I mean, if I pull up these rankings right now, I actually have Cam Akers as the running back 4 in Dynasty. I have him right before Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Antonio Gibson, DeAndre Swift. He easily falls down that entire tier. Then we get down to the tier below: J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne, Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, Javonte Williams. And honestly, I think we maybe have to move Cam Akers down from like running back 4 to most likely like running back 16, 17, 18, and possibly further than that, because this isn't an injury where you just have 12 months to recover. Now, it is very nice that he suffered it before the season, because if he suffered it in like week 8, week 9, you'd be looking at a situation where he wasn't playing in 2022 at all. But now I think he has a real shot to play, like we see with Marlon Mack. We don't necessarily know exactly how explosive Marlon Mack's going to be this upcoming year, but since he suffered that torn Achilles in week 1, I mean, he should be ready to go this upcoming season. Okay, so let's check the chat real quick with everybody who came out. I saw that we got some new people subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much, my dudes. And please let me know your thoughts. Go down there, drop a like on the stream. I literally almost wrecked my car getting back from the gym as fast as I could. I was literally just warming up for squats, ready to have a good workout. Got the sleeper notification on my phone, and Patreon started blowing up. And I was like, okay, let's run. And I look like a maniac. I look like I stole something from the gym, where I was sprinting through the floor, sprinting through the parking lot, left all the weights on the bar. And I'm sorry for everybody that I did that to, but we had to get this out. We had to do this as fast as we could. Okay, so Durko says, would you try to trade Henderson and Pittman for CeeDee Lamb? Yes, I would trade. It doesn't matter the format. Actually, in Dynasty, yes. In redraft, it's going to depend on your starting lineup requirements. Okay, Nicholas says, it would be great if you can tell us where you would take him in a startup Dynasty draft. Startup Dynasty drafts, I actually don't have my overall Dynasty rankings based on the fact that so many variables change in Dynasty leagues when it comes to league size, roster size, and also the starting lineup requirements, scoring. There are so many different variables. That's why on Patreon, I literally break down Dynasty leagues and break down Dynasty teams every single day, because what I do is I look at your exact format. I look at your exact team. I get a personalized podcast out for you talking about how I'd optimize given your format. So yeah, it's going to be very hard to just give you a flat out answer in terms of what we would be doing in what round in Dynasty, because things change so often. We can give you our running back ranking, and of course you can translate that to where you're going to see in a Dynasty startup though. Okay, so now let's go through. Leonardo says, Mason, I just sold Cam Akers for DeAndre Swift. What do you think? Man, that is a fantastic trade, guys. If you can instantly go and sell Cam Akers for DeAndre Swift, I'm doing that 10 times out of 10. Fantastic move, my man. And keep in mind, I'm looking at my Dynasty rankings. I'm sure that you can pull them up on Patreon right now and see that I have Cam Akers at running back 4. I had DeAndre Swift at running back 10. But I mean, I am certain that DeAndre Swift projects better over the next 5 years now than Cam Akers. Ian says, is Cam Akers a target for rebuilding rosters? Yes, it's going to depend on the price. If he's costing DeAndre Swift, then no. Okay, Leo says, is Darrell Henderson a low to mid running back 2, or is that too optimistic? No, man, I think that's exactly where he is. We were just considering in our redraft rankings. Let me pull those back up. I think we were considering moving him about the running back 24. Let me pull up my redraft rankings. Yeah, we are looking at that running back 24 range because he will be jumping Kareem Hunt, Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis. I think he actually has to. And then once you get to the Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Chris Carson, that's when you have to start to make the debate. But yeah, Darrell Henderson easily going to be drafted as a low-end running back 2 this upcoming season. Okay, Schmad says, WTF, my heart is broken right now. Cam is my guy in a 4-player keeper league. My man, you have no idea how many Dynasty leagues I have Cam Akers in. I mean, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Dillon were by far and away my favorite Dynasty picks in rookie drafts last year. So I have Cam Akers everywhere, my man. I mean, this is going to devastate a lot of my teams. Okay, let me go through. And people are saying, what would you pay to get Cam Akers at this point? In a 1-quarterback league, I would pay a future first to get Cam Akers if that can get it done. But I mean, it's going to be so hard to actually see what the market value is going to be until we just can wait a couple days. Like I said, guys, I mean, I've literally had no time to digest this. We were at the gym. I sprinted out looking like I stole something, drove here as fast as I could, almost flipped the Jeep. And yeah, got here, pressed stream. So we are going through this together. Okay, Shenko says, I would take Carson over Darrell Henderson. Yeah. David says, I told you guys Akers was going to be out. David, there's literally nothing that could have predicted this. Literally nothing. If you're going to talk about injury history, Cam Akers last year had a rib injury. How does a rib injury correlate to a torn Achilles? This is just purely random. This has nothing to do with anybody being able to predict injuries. Don't try to run victory laps right now about you saying that Cam Akers was going to be missing the season because, oh my God, there's nothing that's going to make me more upset than that. Money Cut says, does Woods and Cooper Kupp get a boost in the rankings now? Honestly, I think so, given the fact that this team is going to have to be more pass happy. I mean, if I pull up my rankings right now, I am already so aggressive on Robert Woods. I have Robert Woods ranked as the wide receiver 12 right now. I have Woods ranked higher than Godwin, Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper, Mike Evans, and Julio Jones. So I can't move up Robert Woods any more than I currently have him, because if I moved him up anymore, he'd be ahead of Allen Robinson, Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, and I can't do that. So we are going to be keeping Robert Woods at 12, but I think we do have to move Cooper Kupp up, because right now we have Cooper Kupp at wide receiver 21, directly behind T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Julio Jones. I think you actually have to move Cooper Kupp ahead of all those players, because, I mean, they're going to be getting more targets. They're going to be probably a less efficient offense, but at the same time, what you find that they're probably going to have less trips to the red zone. So it's just such a hard decision on when you're actually going to be trying to see who gets that bump up. Justin says, should the Rams sign a running back free agent? Yes, sir. They are 100% going to sign a running back free agent. They're getting another running back in this backfield. I mean, if I pull up their depth chart right now, I believe that we actually already looked at this about a month ago when we made a Cam Akers video, but we were talking about how they, I believe, do not have anybody that was actually drafted in the top 6 or so rounds outside of Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers. So let me pull this up. Yeah, they have like literally nobody on this roster, guys. Okay, so let's pull it up. They have Raymond Calais. I have no idea. I've never even heard of him. Xavier Jones, Jake Funk, and Otis Anderson. So we pull up Raymond. Raymond was literally the last, or one of the last picks in this past year's draft class. I mean, it looks like he has a horrible profile. Xavier Jones was undrafted out of SMU. Jake Funk was picked in the 7th round. Guys, 7th round draft picks literally are nothing in the NFL. And Otis, another undrafted player. So they essentially only have undrafted players on the back half of this roster. So they're bringing in another running back. I can guarantee you that, but still it doesn't change what you're actually having with Darrell Henderson. But it looks like we have another person subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for everybody who is subscribed. And let me know if y'all have any other questions, because I think this was probably a comprehensive stream where we went through, gave y'all the initial reactions, and please shoot me a DM on Patreon ASAP with what you're thinking in terms of, should I just rewrite the Cam Akers profile? Should I just go out there, drop him off the rankings, move Darrell Henderson up, and get the draft guide out tonight? Or should I wait until we get to Florida? We're going to get to Florida on the 24th, and that would give me some time to digest it. It would give me some time to actually hop in some drafts and see what's shaking out in terms of the roster construction. So please shoot me that DM on Patreon with your opinion ASAP, because, of course, it is extremely valuable to me. Okay, William saying they'll sign Devonta Freeman or Todd Gurley. They ain't signing Devonta Freeman, my man. They'll sign Le'Veon Bell before Devonta Freeman. And also, please, guys, because I almost wrecked my car, go down there, drop a like on the live stream. Let's get this live stream over 200 likes. And if y'all have any other questions about the situation, of course, I will be answering questions all day over there on Patreon. Y'all can hit me up there. If not, I will be in the video premiere tomorrow. Y'all know that I premiere every single one of the videos where I hang out in the live chat. I answer your questions. So yeah, if you have anything, please make sure you go out there and you hit me up. And I believe that's all we should have. So yeah, my dudes, thank you for coming out and have a great day.